going on, everybody? I'm your cold boyfriend. This is Isabelle. It's been a while. How you been? How you been, Isabelle?
Surviving.
Surviving? Good, good. Seen any cool movies lately?
I'm seeing Phantom Menace tomorrow.
No, hell yeah. There
They're
you
doing
go.
a re-release.
Oh man, I got very, very fucked up last night, Isabelle.
Oh no.
And now I'm here talking about European art cinema. So this'll be exciting.
That's okay. I mirrored myself so I look normal. There we go.
Nice.
That's okay. I haven't slept in like a week, so
Well,
this is
you're
my
kind
second
of
coffee in like 4 hours. So
I'm still working on my first. You're closest I got to a Godard expert or largest Godard appreciator.
I feel appreciator is probably better.
Yeah, well, I believe I was kind of dared to do this, just making sure everything's good, to do this ranking. I didn't include every film.
Oh, what's the fun in that?
Like, have you seen every one?
I've seen 37.
What? That's like so many. That's like
No,
so
it's like
many.
not even a third of his work.
What do you, okay, if you go, okay, where's my Google?
He has like, according to Letterbox, at least like 100 movies.
Okay, fuck Letterboxd, all right? Hold on.
And I do include all of them, including that 1 minute movie he made one
Like,
time. That
if I go
Nike
here
trip.
and I'm like, how many films in Godard make? They're like at least 26.
He did a Nike ad once.
Well, that's not here.
Well, it should be. It
I've
should.
got
It
like
counts more than
26.
Breathless does. The Nike ad he made that's like 15 seconds long. It's more important to cinema than Breathless. All right.
Whatever. Okay.
But no, he's I think my most watched director is either him or Brackage, but it's hard to say with Brackage because they're all like 2 minutes long. So I've seen like 100 plus Brackage, but again, they're all so short that it doesn't really. I don't know.
You're kind of unique in the sense that I don't know, if you can just give us like a brief overview of Godard, like from his 60s work to like where he ended up, because you're a big fan of his later period, which you don't see too often.
Yeah, I guess I am. I don't know. I didn't prepare for this. He was kind of his life before, let's say 1968, doesn't matter. Didn't do anything important before 1968. Then King Lear dropped and he became important. No, I'm just kidding. No, I feel like everyone watching knows he was a critic first. Middle class background, bougie upbringing. Abandoned his parents, became a film critic. Married multiple celebrated film actresses.
Yeah.
Then entered a like 40-year domestic partnership with Anne Marie Maiville, and then recently died by suicide. He was pretty industry for 8 years.
Thought it was a brain tumor, because my favorite Godard movie is Day for Night. Oh, we're not doing that, a different guy?
Yeah, Godard died on the way to see Amadeus. That's right. And Truffaut the coward.
I ruined my joke, because I have the Truffaut My Life in Films book, but I just forgot to find it because I'm like recovering. I'm hungover. I was gonna pull it out if you like started going on.
Perfect time to talk about Jean-Luc Godard.
But no, go on. I
No, yeah, he recently died by assisted suicide. He has a new movie coming out again.
Really?
Phony Wars dropped, and it was marketed as his last film, even though multiple people said this is not his last thing he made, but everyone marketed it that way anyway. And now, sure enough, a movie he made literally a day before he died or finished working on it. Like, he was working on it, and then like 24 hours he was dead. But like it was scheduled, so like he knew he was like working on a movie knowing that in like 24 hours he was gonna be dead. And that's dropping soon as an NFT, but it's unclear his intention. I got the impression that it was just like after he died that was set up. So I don't know. I get the impression he was dicked around because it seems kind of counter to a lot of his beliefs, but simply about like making movies, like he's more the type of guy to just say drop it on YouTube and call it a fucking day. I feel like if he had his way, that's how film Socialism would have been released. They just drop it in
Yeah.
ADP on YouTube, and that's it, you know. But so on and so forth. But yeah, marked by multiple different eras. The 60s, a lot of movies about young people, a lot of movies referencing crime films, gangster films from America. Then his quote unquote Maoist era. It's debatable if he was ever actually a Maoist, but everyone calls it his Maoist era with Jean-Pierre Gorin or Goron. I don't know how to say it. And very theory heavy films. Then kind of a return to kind of like a middle area between the two styles. In the 70s and 80s, a lot of films that kind of are similar to his 60s work, but more theoretical. And then you get his kind of late era, which is largely like video essays of various styles and forms. Yeah, the Nike ad is so important. Jane is so real for that.
I don't think I've seen it. I don't know. How long is it?
Like 15 seconds.
All right.
Give
me a second.
My favorite of his very, 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 very short movies is What Is Wrong with the World, though. The one about the photograph of the girl. That's my favorite of his like 1 minute long movies. But yeah. Or maybe oh my god, I'm blanking on the name. But oh, here it is. Yep, that's a Nike Air Max. Oh, it's longer than I thought. Sorry, buddy.
Yo, this is what we're using right now, dude. Isn't that crazy? Okay.
That's
brilliant.
That's what goes on in my head 24/7.
Nice. All right. It's very cool.
Anyway, I don't know. I didn't plan like an intro for Godard, so that's like.
Well, I wasn't planning on you doing all the heavy lifting, but since I'm like so hungover, you know, whatever. This is your stream.
Oh, come on. We need way more. We need way more. we bring them all in there. No.
That's like 26. It's at least 26. Like Wikipedia said.
40% stuff that came out in the 60s.
Yeah, 40% the important movies.
No. I actually did almost watch again Pierrot le Fou before this because I actually do love that movie, and I haven't seen it in a long time. But I did
fine.
have the time to watch it.
Maybe someone else did it. Look at all these pop-ups.
Yeah, and these are all, of course, ads that made deals with Zach.
So that's even less. Okay?
Yeah, that's even less. It's like, at least give me the image book. But
I had the image book.
I have a Japanese image book poster, but it's in my bedroom. But it would have looked cool behind me for this. I also had a Godard shirt, but it's the picture used in the thumbnail, but I don't have it on me immediately. This is going swimmingly. This is what I missed. This is the atmosphere I missed from our dialogues. But yes, he is dropping another. Well, he's not here anymore, but he's dropping him again soon. More Godard will return in the Avengers too. But I don't know. Yeah, so yeah, my
okay.
I'm more into the later stuff these days, but to be fair, that's just burnout on the older stuff. But I love Pierrot le Fou and I love La Chinoise. Those are the best. Okay, this is JLG by JLG. That's I can work with this. This is acceptable.
Okay.
Notre Musique. I can work with this.
I
I
had that on mine. I had it on.
settle down. Nouvelle Vague I also almost watched because it's relatively short, but I didn't get to it. I also almost saw Alphaville in theaters recently, which I saw once years ago, and I was bored out of my mind watching it.
Oh yeah, I
But
don't really like that one.
I always felt like I was being a little uncharitable towards it, so I was looking forward to seeing it, but then something came up and I couldn't go. They were doubling it with Phony Wars, but I've seen Phony Wars like 5 times already. So anyway,
So I really like Godard, I guess. He's he's always interesting. I mean, this first movie on here is Breathless, and I think it's like really cool to dog on Breathless for like the last 10 years, but I think it's awesome. I remember maybe you're supposed to watch it when you're like 15 to 19 years old or
yeah,
something. And but like when you watch it then it's like perfect. It's like amazing, and I
yeah,
don't ever want to forget that feeling. And I think it did a hell of a lot really quick.
yeah.
I actually love Breathless. I'm not like
No, it's
afraid to
really
say that.
good.
Yeah, I think it's excellent.
It's made just for like the sheer joy of having made something. Specifically, I mean, like that's the one where so many of the things he loved at the time were just there on the screen. So many of the things he was passionate about, and I think that alone makes it feel very I don't know, special. I guess there's like a romantic quality of that. You know, like he was mad about the movies people were making, so he said, "Fuck you guys, I'll just make a movie," and then he actually did it, and it's actually just in reference to everything he loved watching at the time, being like gangster movies from America, which now is probably more. I feel like for a lot of people that might be hard to appreciate because we kind of take that for granted now, which is probably a comment that I'll make a lot coming up throughout this, especially when as some of the later stuff we get to is like the significance to him might be lost on people now because it's stuff that at the time was pretty counterculture. You know, like he was. For him, that was a time where it was counterculture to say you liked Howard Hawks, you know, and now it's like that's the most institution take you can make.
I
So,
think compositionally, Breathless is still pretty
oh,
jarring.
absolutely.
You know, like
It's
the jump cuts that totally betray like the rhythm of the scene
yeah.
itself, like with Belmondo in the car. Also, is that his first time? It's his first movie, so first time with Belmondo, and they went on to
Yes,
do
it
some
is.
incredible work.
Technically, he made a short film before this with Truffaut. They collabed on one, but this is his first like proper solo. Definitely, obviously his first feature. So yeah, he just kind of jumped out of the gate with this one. Um, I don't know. I've seen it a few times. I feel like I don't really know what to add to like
Mhm.
conversation about it, other than like it actually is just that enjoyable to watch. You know,
I think it's a pretty good like opening thesis for this director. Like at his
yeah,
most basic, he could be not summed up, but like a lot of people like to quote that a story should have a beginning, middle, and end, but not necessarily in that
no
order.
wonder.
One of his quotes, and like, of course, that would go on to like include language and politics within his later work. Like he might be the most efficient and effective like postmodern artist I've ever seen.
Mm,
He
yeah.
completely dismantled not only film language but language itself by the very end. And Breathless is a really good opening statement of it's familiar, but it's also kind of alien at the same time. And Belmondo is constantly, like you said, it's about his love of gangster movies and all that, and he's always posturing as if he's Humphrey Bogart in some in a much cooler movie than Breathless. Like he's like the main character of some movie that we don't actually see, but it's in his head a little bit. That's the way I
Yeah.
view it. Also, Gene Seberg is so cool, so fine, so fun. Didn't the CIA kill her?
This is on YouTube, so no comment.
Oh,
But
okay, never mind.
I will say I did see this relatively early on, and then I saw it several more times over the course of my life here and there.
Like,
But
if someone was
it
new
was.
to Godard, like, what would you show them? I'm not opposed to showing them
Well, I,
Breathless or maybe Contempt. Like,
I was gonna say my first like the I feel like the I don't know if this was my first Godard. I don't. It might have been, but I feel like the one that was actually proper, like my gateway into that his like work was either Vivre sa vie or Pierrot le Fou. So I don't I think I might have seen this first, but I don't know for sure. But if I did, it was more it didn't have like that as profound an impact on me as those two did. But that's kind of okay. I still
yeah,
quite liked it. It was more just those were the ones that kind of rocked my socks off, and this one was more that I kind of slowly appreciated more over time the kind of value of it as I got older.
it's it's incredibly significant to the film and
Yeah,
the new wave movement as well. I mean, I think more than I love the 400 blows, but this is more of a thesis statement for that movement than the 400 blows was.
yeah, especially because in its own way, I guess 400 blows does kind of set the stage for Truffaut's work. I was gonna say it didn't really, but
For
that's
his
because
work,
he
but
had
not
a
really for the new wave. It's almost like Truffaut didn't enter the new wave for me to shoot the piano player, which would be
yeah
like,
yeah. Um, there's I've been reading this book of lectures by Godard that I think were in the 80s. And he says that he talks about the new wave directors. And he says something effective. Truffaut had the strangest arc of anyone,
uh, we
considering
should.
he started out with one of Godard's favorite movies and then ended up becoming one of his most hated directors. But
I'd like to do something on him later. I know more about him than I do Godard, so I apologize for bringing him up so often.
no, I
But
mean it's a good reference point. They were, especially considering they were friends at this point in time. Like again, literally, they made their first movie together. Um, Although technically, actually, Rivette was the first new wave director. It was just that his movie didn't get released. Until,
oh, I didn't
yeah,
know that.
he directed Paris Belongs to Us well before 400 Blows got released, let alone made. And but it got no one thought it was nobody thought anyone would want to watch it. And so they put off releasing it forever. And then by the time it finally dropped, Breathless and 400 Blows had both already come out and other stuff. And so Rivette was kind of seen in less
Right on.
innovative light. But yeah, that was always a little unfair. But anyway, that's neither here nor there.
Well, we're about 20 minutes into the stream. You want to put the first movie on this
Well,
tape?
let's say I would say like C or B, but I'll give it to you.
Oh, I'd say fuck you.
Yeah, no, give it A. Give it
Give it
A.
A.
That's fair. I can't say that.
Yeah, I love that movie. I don't care.
No, it's great. It's great. I'm
Why
just
do
trying
you
to keep.
think people like so many people give it shit, and I have no idea why. I mean, I
It's
have an
so,
idea why. Like, you're too cool for school. I have no. It's
um I don't know. I can think of, I mean, one is like the Citizen Kane effect is like you're sick of
oh,
hearing about this fucking thing all the time and you just want to hear about literally anything else. But
okay.
and my other theory is that they're annoyed by people who are only fans of Breathless and don't know anything about any of his other movies, which I can attest to because it's when I was in college, so many guys who were like the most dude bro guy you've ever met were like, my short film was inspired by the Nouvelle Vague, and they would always say it like that, and it would always just be black and white and have people smoking, but then it had nothing of the actual like editing style or aesthetics or you know, historical background. It would just be like black and white and guys smoking. So I can understand if people are annoyed by, but it is unfair. That movie, if you were wondering what it is JLG by JLG. The
The
next
hell's going
one.
on?
You looked
Yeah,
perplexed.
yeah. I have no idea what the fuck that is. What is
It
it?
is an hour-long movie. It's a self-portrait movie basically that he made, I think, in the 90s. It's really good. I want to watch it again. I watched it maybe like 2 years ago or like a year and a half ago. It's really good. I want to watch it again just because it's very like text heavy. It's very like him just going on and on and on and on. So it's like on one viewing, I'm like, I need to watch this again and get like more of the detail. But it's kind of him just reflecting on himself and his relationship to all of this in film. And of course, it's a Godard movie. So near the end, at one point, he starts saying cryptic shit while drawing a Star of David, and everyone's like, "What did he mean by this?" And it's, I don't know. He didn't do himself a lot of favors because people already think he's an anti-Semite, and so.
Look, low key, I see why, but where would you put
He's
that
not.
movie?
I'm tempted to say A, but because I don't have much substantial to say, I'll actually just say B or B. But I feel like it deserves higher. I just want to watch it again.
Hey, you let me put About the Souffle.
A
at
boot
A.
de souffle. A boot de souffle. Yeah.
So I'll put that one at A.
What is that?
A Woman is Woman? Is that what that is?
Which one?
This is A Woman is a Woman, right?
Oh, I haven't seen it actually.
It's really, it's one of his 60s works, so you probably haven't heard of it. It's like pretty good.
Well, funny enough, there's actually a lot of his 60s stuff I have not seen.
I think
just
it's his.
I burned out a little bit on the style, and I also really disliked one of them, and so I was like, I'm sick of this shit. I want to watch his cool stuff.
I think it's awesome. I think it's his first Karina film.
You might be right, actually.
Because Little Soldier was later, right? No, but he directed Little Soldier in 1960, but it was released in 1963. So technically, that was his first Karina film. But this was the first released one.
There you go. So give me the review. I haven't seen it.
It's all right. It's a C. What is that? The insight you expect? I hope
so. This one I also haven't seen. Le Petit Soldat.
I remember like not being too terribly impressed. I'm gonna sound sentimental. There was always something beautiful that happened when Godard saw something in Karina, and like he could like convey a lot of emotions through her. So like any movie that she's in with him, there's something special about it. So I don't think they ever made like a D tier movie, but it's still not because there's like we've seen those two make high art. That's not it.
I read like a really lengthy thing about this movie, and then I also there's obviously the book goes, I forget what it's called. It's like the history of television or something, or history of film and television. It's the lecture series he did. The idea is basically he's going like one by one through several movies of his from the 60s, and then pairing them with films he was watching and into around the time he made that movie. So like he shows like one movie and then pairs it with like Dracula and stuff like that. And he just pulls them together and basically forces the students to watch all of them in like a morning and then talk about it for like an hour. And there was like a really lengthy one about chapter about Le Petit Soldat, and I was really compelled by it, and it made me want to watch it. So I'm really intrigued by it. I want to watch it.
Well, this guy, he's like Godard's a master. He's legendary. And I put a movie at C. That's only because like the S and A tier movies are like kind of
that's why I was
changing,
wrestling with like whether to put Breathless lower. It's like it's not because it's bad. It's just like I'm like I want to be realistic. Like I don't want everything to be at the top of the tier.
It won't be. I won't allow it. Like
You might.
What's this one?
British Sounds.
How do you like that?
It's really good. It's good. That's from the Ziga Verta Vera, where him and Goran were making very like theory heavy movies together. So I think it's only like an hour long. I think you would probably hate it, but you don't know. I don't know. It's actually less than an hour. I need to revisit all the Zika Veritas because that Wind from the East and Lottie in Italy, I think it's called. I saw all of those like in like a week a few years ago, and so they all kind of blend together in my head. This one, if I remember correctly, there's like a lot of sequences of people debating the Beatles and
Really?
stuff like that. Yeah, it's if I remember correctly. So clear. The problem with having seen like almost 40 of his movies is that now like I'm like I actually have to rewatch a bunch of them because it's been too long. But this one's good. I like this one.
You
Put
sounds
a
like you're saying B.
B.
B for British sounds.
Yeah.
Hey, I watched Made in USA though.
I haven't seen that, and I haven't seen Masculine Feminine.
It sounds like you might need to work on your 60s
Yeah, I
guitar.
don't know much about ALG.
Made in USA is cool. I like it. I like it more than two or three things I know about her, and I think that
Oh, really?
those are the two films Godard made at the same exact time because I think he was like bored or wanted to see if he could do two films at the same exact time.
It might be because I
Um,
think Lushing Was came out the same year as. I think Lushing Was Weekend and that all came out, and two or three things all came out like the same year.
I really like Made in USA. I think it kind of radicalizes Anna Karina in a way because it is I think that the Marxist philosophy of Made in the USA is pretty great and conveyed in a really cool way that could radicalize not only his muse but anyone watching. I'm gonna put it after British sound.
I do feel like interestingly he tends to cast Karina in not the greatest light, weirdly, in his movies often, or at least like by his own standards, what I imagine his own standards are, because it's like Pierrot le Fou, it's like there's like a lot of resentment towards like her personality in that movie, like as someone like he struck me as someone more empathetic to Belmondo in that movie.
More sympathetic, but Belmondo's still pathetic.
Oh yeah, the movie is like super nihilistic. It's like I think a good companion piece to Le Chinoise, but I can get into that later. But he always casts her as like kind of very normal, and I almost wonder if like he kind of resents that normalcy, that kind of like layman quality, or if he actually is like deliberately trying to speak to something with that, like that she is more compared to how he tends to depict Anne Wyzemski, where she is always like the smartest person in the room in any given scene he casts her in. You know, he always makes her like fully radical, whereas Anna Karina is more like depicted as what I imagine he thinks like the average person he passes on the street is like. You know what I mean? Personality wise, not aesthetically. He thinks she's hot as the sun.
I think like aesthetically, she's like cinema to him.
Yeah,
So
exactly.
like she elevates every piece.
Exactly, like the Vivre sa vie with the.
Yeah, we'll go into that when we get to
God,
the
I love
actual masterpieces he made with her, but we haven't.
Anyway, tell me about
How do you
Master
think he used Leod, or whatever?
Lude, Leo. Great. I love.
Masculine
I like
feminine
him. He
cool.
kind of uses them in a similar way to how I think Rovette has used him in that one, but he kind of sees he sees Leo as kind of like just a funny guy, you know, whereas compared to Truffaut, who sees, I think, something relatable in Leo. Like, I feel like Truffaut relates to him, whereas Godard was always very willing to make fun of him.
Do you think it's another B?
I didn't see this one.
Oh,
I told you that.
okay. Well,
Your world, bro. I'm just living in it.
oh my God, this loser who made this put the soldier on twice.
Happens to the best of us. Is that Le Gai Savoir?
Yes.
The Joy of Learning. Great movie. Great fucking movie.
I haven't seen it in a million gajillion years.
It's so good. I really, really liked it. It's a nice middle grade. I feel like it's like the first like sign of the Zika Vertov style, but like still firmly in like his pre-68 style. It's very like it's literally just two people debating and like discoursing for like an hour and a half, and that's like the whole movie, and it's great. I love watching it. It's literally called The Joy of Learning, You
Yeah,
know,
I don't remember like anything about it.
I think it's significant just because that and La Chinoise, which came out I think a few years before it. Both are like the first ones by Godard that I find to be genuinely optimistic in any meaningful sense. And that kind of carries on throughout the rest of his work up to when he died, is that his work becomes a lot more optimistic. Whereas I find his like movies from like before La Chinoise very pessimistic, extreme, or at least very confused. Like he's like kind of lost and he doesn't know like how to fix all these problems he sees in the world. And so I see in a lot of his 60s movies him like wrestling with like what is this problem that I feel in the world. And then I feel like as time went on he became much more uh hopeful, and I that's why I like Joy of Learning. It just feels like it's a movie about like, you know, something good will come from all these like dialogues and such. So I quite like it.
Where would you put it?
I'm thinking A, low A, high B.
Sounds good to me.
That's Hail Mary, which
Yeah, that's one of the most controversial movies ever.
yeah, I need to see it. I haven't seen it.
I
That's actually
haven't
next
either. I
on
was
my
hoping you had.
watch list. It was because I want to watch that and the movie by Anne Marie that is like a companion piece to it.
I wish they had the poster that had a quote from like the Pope at the time on it. That was like, "This is the most disgraceful film ever made," or something.
Yeah,
That,
yeah, yeah,
that
yeah.
was pretty fun. So we haven't seen it, so it goes in the D. That's how life works.
Notre Musique.
Which is really good.
S tier.
S.
Oh, I
Okay.
fucking love it.
All right, you
It's in
got
my
it.
top three for
You got it.
It is I would say my second or third favorite by him. It's fucking devastating. It's
great.
really fucking devastating to watch. But beautiful.
I wish more people were talking about it now, given the
Well, actually,
theme.
but I've been seeing more people engaging with it online, and I've also seen it circulating theaters more recently, whereas before it was kind of um, um, just kind of lost to the backlogs of like one of Godard's like 80 movies you're never going to watch, and then like the 10 you will. It's gotten more attention recently, and I think rightfully so. And yeah, I do think it's really timely now.
Yes.
It has one of my favorite lines in his movies that I'm sure is actually stolen from somewhere else, which is I think it's not a just conversation, just a conversation, and stuff like that. It's just it's again like he becomes plagued more and more by like how are these like horrific apocalyptic cruelties being occurring in the world today, and like how do you reckon with that? And yeah, the movie is very this is one of several movies that got him plagued with accusations of anti-Semitism because
Yes.
he's criticizing Israel in it quite a bit. To which he kind of just said, "Okay, I don't really give a fuck. You know, I'm a French dude who's like 80 years old. Like, I don't really give a shit if you think I'm an anti-Semite."
It's really good though.
And he also in this one starts dealing with like the question of suicide, which obviously is kind of repainted in a different light now that he actually did die by suicide.
Do you know more? Like, did he have like a terminal condition, or was he
No,
just
he was
like,
just
"I'm out"?
tired.
Okay, dude, I'm so down.
It was medically assisted. Like it was because he's Swiss and like he lives in Switzerland, and so he was given the okay pass from the state to have medically assisted suicide.
Well,
And so
since we're at this kind of topic, do you think that Godard's politics like got more extreme as he got older, or he was just expressing them more freely, or like how did his politics change? Because
I think I mean like I'll never know like what
at least by his films.
his like party. I mean he's a communist obviously, but I mean
Yeah.
like he strikes me as more kind of in the kind of a fluid vein. Obviously, people call the Zika Vertov his Maoist era, but that's always been kind of like a weird descriptor for that, because I don't know if I would have really called him that. He was more someone that was willing to engage with like Mao and Stalin without like outright rejection, but also without like outright embrace. You know, he just kind of was like more. He reminds me of like guys like Walter Benjamin, I guess, or like Deleuze, like guys who are like very fluid and like willing to like kind of pull from these different sources. And ultimately his main politic was like the things he thinks are like crimes against humanity or like moral violations, you know. But you do see, I think, as he got older, kind of a utopian streak. Like I'll talk about with film socialism, but film socialism is like very much like a utopian movie. It's literally about like young people taking over the world and, you know, hijacking the democratic process, and how like everyone can make movies on phones and stuff like that. So I think he did have this belief. As I think early in life he was kind of struggling, because he was like, I'm just some like upper middle class asshole who lives in France, and I'm white, and he's like, what am I really contributing to any of this? And he a lot of his movies from that period, that's why I think they kind of wrestle with like, how, you know, what is the answer here? There's kind of like nothing but people arguing for opinions. And I think that's why you see in a lot of those early movies just like aimless, repetitive quotations that all show like diametric positions, you know, like in Pierrot le Fou, 2 or 3 things I know about her, La Chinoise. And I think La Chinoise was this kind of like tipping point where it's like the first time where he's like, no, like, as like just committing to the mission of like making the world a better place. But I think his most cogent political argument he probably ever made was What's Wrong with the World, which is a 1-minute movie he made where it's a picture of a little girl, and he basically goes from the argument of like, because, you know, she deserves to live, and in order to live she needs this, and in order to get that she needs a parent like this, and in order to have a parent like that her parent needs to have this situation that's ideal, and in order for her that situation, blah 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 blah, communism. He's basically like, he's like, this is the only practical realistic solution to my woes with the world. But I do think Image Book is a little pessimistic, actually, but I'll get to that. It's more just like scared than I would call pessimistic. It's like, what happens when a utopian gets scared that he's wrong, you know?
Well, we're almost to it. I like Image Book. I never watched Forever Mozart, but
I
it
didn't
looks
either.
cool as fuck. Okay.
I want to though. I forget who's in that. La Chinoise. It's so good.
It's great.
It's so good. It's I hate so much of the discourse surrounding it, because a lot of people think that it was outright like ridiculing the kids, and I think that is just like blatantly obviously false. And I get why. It's because like a year later May 68 happened, and then fizzled out, and then everyone was more demoralized than they'd ever been, you know, in Europe, because it's just like, what happens when like an actual movement is starting and gains traction and is gaining success, and then just fizzles out and dies, and everyone goes back home to their parents, and, you know, business as usual. And so it was like a very demoralizing time. And so a lot of people read La Chinoise through that lens of like, it's about like kids who are idiots and like fail and then get over it. But that's like so fucking wrong. Like, considering there's so many characters in this movie that show the opposite, and they're clearly like the villains here, you know, like the scene where Anne Wyszynski is debating her professor. It's like, are you implying that Godard thinks the professor is right? Because he's portrayed as like, you know, like an armchair Marxist who's like, all he's willing to do is criticize how all these, you know, leftists are being idiots, but then he doesn't bring anything to the table, and then he just goes on teaching with his university job and dies, you know, comfortably. And then there's another character who's a member of the group who hates them for being too radical, and so he joins the party to be more official and, you know, state recognized, more, you know, not seen as a criminal. And he gets a job with his dad at his dad's factory, and he's like, I'm pretty happy, I'm making money, I'm living a life. And it's just like, Godard thinks that guy's a loser, you know. It's like, he clearly thinks Anne is the hero of the movie, to me.
It's a movie I think is really good. I didn't connect with it as much as other people, but do
Oh,
you agree
really?
with Donald? I'll let you.
Yeah, I just like when I watched it, I think I watched it twice in a week once, which is one of the three movies I've ever done that with, I think. I've watched it like a dozen times. It's so fun. It's so fun. I just love the Mao song. It's great.
It's really fun. It's cool. It's just I don't know. Didn't
Yeah, no, I can get that. I can get that. It kind of returned me to his 60s because I had kind of long stopped engaging with it, but then I watched this and I was like, no, he was cooking. He was like really on something here. I don't know.
yeah.
It,
Like
it it was one of those movies that just brought the joy back to me in like these
right.
kind of more theory heavy movies. It because it's like it combines it with like actual fun. Like it's an actually, I don't know. For me anyway, I just always found it like legitimately, and it almost reminds me of like a Hollywood movie in that way. Is that
Well, yeah, I want to talk about that too. His affections for Hollywood. My thing with the film is just I wouldn't. No, Godard is challenging. He can be challenging, but he can also be like aggravating to me. And
I can understand that. I
I'm
can
like,
understand that.
you're he's so fucking good, and it feels weird to call him aggravating, but sometimes I'm aggravated by his work, which
I mean,
might
that's
be
just
deliberate.
art.
Might be deliberate. So like,
I mean,
I'll,
he would probably agree with you. He he said
but
he said like when you make as many movies as I do, like a lot of them are gonna suck. Um,
I did want to talk about his affections for Hollywood and like how much he loved like the work of like even his contemporary Jacques Demy, like thought Umbrella
yeah,
de Cherbourg was great.
yeah,
And Godard's interesting because I think that I mean he actually thought film could change people, right? Like
yeah,
he actually thought it had this like big
yeah,
power. And even talked about like souls in almost all of his movies as if
yeah.
like he truly
I
believes in that sort of metaphysical aspect of not only film but of the viewer. And that's
I mean,
intriguing.
I always thought La Chinoise is just like a coming of age movie. You know,
Yeah.
the point isn't that they're idiots. It's the point is that they try something, they fail, and then they learn from the experience and are able to grow and become better. And which is why I think that he legitimately thinks that like Anne in this movie is going to one day save the world. You know, the character in that
Right.
movie, she, despite her failure in the movie,
Do,
you know, it's so that's why the end of the movie is I thought I had taken an enormous leap, but in fact I had just taken the first small step of a long march. Is how the movie ends. And so I think that's a very Hollywood quality. Like I almost feel like there's kind of like a John Hughes quality to La Chinoise, practically. You know, it's literally about teenagers
yeah.
trying and failing and having relationship problems, and then they rise above it and get better. And so there is kind of like a Hollywood element to it for me.
I should maybe watch it again. It okay. Like going into this, I was gonna watch more, but then I just drank and did drugs. Um,
I was gonna watch Pierrot le Fou, and then that didn't happen, and I had a little bit of time this morning.
like I
And
only rewatched film Socialism and Pierrot le Fou.
to be fair, Film Socialism is his best movie, so we did right.
To be fair, that's not true, but it's great.
I knew we were gonna hit this. Anyway, um,
um,
first
Carmen.
name
Her
Carmen.
name's Carmen.
Yeah, first name Carmen. It's really fun. I've talked to people who kind of say that Carmen is for them what La Chinoise is for me. It's just like that one they just love to rewatch because it's entertaining. I don't think I was as enthralled as some people, but I really enjoy it. Godard is in it and gives a really funny performance as Uncle Jean, who is a filmmaker who like is just insane and going like losing his mind in a hospital, and it's literally just Godard playing himself. And Carmen is like, Uncle Jean, Uncle Jean. I think she asks him for money and shit. It's really funny. But did you see this?
No, I didn't include it on mine because I didn't see it.
Oh yeah, yeah. It's funny. It's real fun. It's
It's
about like
is that 80s or 70s? Remember?
you say late 70s, early
Okay.
80s, but I might be wrong. It's about Carmen organizes a bank robbery, but then during the bank robbery seduces one of the security guards, and then they run off and
See, that
start
sounds good.
fucking. And there's a lot of nudity in it. It's a fun time.
Sounds good. It sounds like
I actually think you would quite like First Name Carmen.
okay.
I think you would actually really like it. It's a good time. It's a real good time.
I really liked Image Book.
It's so good.
That's really good.
I've seen like fair criticisms of aspects of it, like the whole Godard with the Middle East and stuff like that. I think it was Neil Bahadur or someone who wrote about how like they thought it was kind of racist. I don't know if I entirely agree with that. But I mean, he does try to show like a world that's better than like the one we're trapped in and stuff like
Right.
that.
I thought it was like one of his most intimate films. I would.
Yeah, it's extremely intimate.
Yeah.
I
I'd equal it
mentioned
to Vivre sa vie in like an opposite way. Like I feel just as intimately connected to what he's showing me in the Image Book.
no, 100%, 100%. And I mentioned it before, but it does strike me as kind of like not cynical, but kind of scared, you know, in the sense that he's like, I've been making all these movies for literally like half a century
Yeah.
about like how the world can be made better and it's still not better. And he's like, I'm gonna die soon.
I
You know?
like that though. I
And
like
he's
that.
yeah, he feel I always read in like this kind of this fear in it that like he's gonna die, and when he's gone the world isn't gonna get any better without him, and even if he didn't die the world still wouldn't get any better. But then that he still kind of has that kind of
Do you think that the
childlike.
accusations of racism have any ground? Because I was feeling S tier.
I the review in question that I'm referencing basically just talked about how he depicts the Middle East as kind of like a pre-modern world. It kind of in the sense that one watches like Malik's The New World, and it's like, you know, like it's like the uncivilized world and it's, you know, beauty and grace. It's just like kind of demeaning, but I don't agree with the
Yeah, but
criticism.
Godard's kind of upset in it. That's an
Yeah, especially because
interesting.
he's so like viciously, you know, like pro Palestine and
Yeah.
stuff like that, and his especially knowing films like Here and Elsewhere, which I believe, yeah, it's on here. It's after Pierrot le Fou.
No, I
Here and
don't.
Elsewhere, which is like a very very well articulated movie about the Middle East, and so I think it was kind of like an
I
uh,
don't care if it's
yeah, I
upsetting
think
to
it's a
some
great
people. It
film.
should be upsetting. And how he was in his 80s when he made that, right? It was near the end,
Yeah,
right?
he was.
That
But
is such an upsetting and confrontational and challenging film. Like every older director should look to that movie. They want to make something
I've
that actually
argued with
challenges
friends of mine
people.
who saw it, and they're like, it pissed me off because it's just he he just filmed took footage from other movies and put it through After Effects and called it a day, and I'm like, no, it's way more.
That's why it's good.
Yeah, no, I described it to people as a movie about like how being represented at all on film is kind of like a violation or a cruelty, or and he's kind of like reckoning with that in some ways. Like he's like, how do you depict something without like kind of violating it in some way? You know, how do I film like other cultures without like violating them? How do I you know, film
Which is
real
such a
things?
cool question. It's such a
Yeah,
cool
because
thing.
and it makes sense for him considering how frequently, how often he reckons with the Holocaust and the ramifications of the Holocaust on not just film but like art in general. You know, he you know, like the how does beauty exist? How does art
Yeah.
exist after Auschwitz and the stuff like that, which he comes back to in or he did earlier with In Praise of Love. And he, yeah, he's struggling with that, like how these things work. I also like it because it's one of the rare instances of him explicitly dealing or like referencing the Western or the kind of like American and Canadian avant-garde, because he references Michael Snow in it quite a bit, which he'd never done
Oh, right.
before. There's a whole section called La Region Centrale, and it shows footage from La Region Centrale, which I always found interesting. But it makes sense because this is very much an avant-garde film.
Oh, yeah.
It's very very abstract. Um,
I put it at S right under
I think that's
1980.
fair. I think it deserves it. It's really it's one that I keep returning to. It kind of feels like an epilogue to Histoire. Uh, which is that on here?
I have no idea what's on
It
here.
should be. I sure fucking hope Histoire is on here because it's the other greatest movie ever. Anyway,
God. Without Nouvelle Vague. No
yeah,
wave.
Nouvelle Vague. I actually
Novel
just
Vague.
downloaded it. I just downloaded it.
I didn't watch it. Wasn't on mine because I didn't watch it.
It has Alain Delon. And
Oh
it's
shit.
a movie made up entirely of quotations, which, as a Walter Benjamin enjoyer, kind of tickles me as a concept.
I fucking love Godard. I love it. Like it's a movie made up entirely of quotes.
Yeah, it's like quotes from like philosophy and novels and different places. And the movie is entirely that, but I think it's about like a guy, and Alain Delon might be playing a guy and his brother, or it might just be one guy and it's unclear. And there's like, I really wanna see it. Like I said, I downloaded it. Had I had more time, I would have watched it this morning. Because one of my a dear friend of mine, it's his favorite Godard, so he has sung its praises, and I'm very interested. I can't see what that is.
Isabelle, what does it say?
I can't see it. It's too small.
Come on.
It's a Ziga Vertov movie. I can figure it out. Which one is that? It's not Wind from the East. It's not Lottie.
I didn't make this one.
You should have made this one.
This one I had at least 26 on mine, and that's what Wikipedia told me to have.
Godard famous for only having made 26 movies.
No, at least 26.
Oh,
I love the at least so much in that.
Oh, this is one he made with two other directors.
Oh.
Prada. No, I actually wasn't even aware of this one. I had never heard of this one.
See, well, hey, I know this one.
Contempt is great.
It's so good. I don't care. I'm putting it up here.
I don't know if I would go that high on it, but it is quite great. It is quite great. I haven't seen it in like 8 or 9 years. They showed it recently at a theater in my area, but I wasn't able to go, so I missed it.
It opens with Bardot booty. That's S tier, bro.
Yeah, I know what you need in your movie.
That's what I need in life. And also Fritz Lang being a fucking gangster through the whole movie.
In it, yeah, I forgot he's in that, isn't he? Yeah. This is actually, I think I just read the chapter on contempt in that book. Or I might be on it.
I think I'm so on good. That's very cynical too. That's an extremely cynical.
Yeah, this movie. Is the thing is like it's been so long that I don't actually remember a lot of. I remember like the images and I remember story wise what happens, but I don't actually remember a lot of like the ideas he was wrestling with in this movie, just because it's been so long since I saw it.
And I think Brigitte Bardot was awesome, but not too many people knew how to use her outside of like just sexualizing her, which works fine. That works, and God created women, that works. But like Godard actually like tried to do something a bit, I think, more interesting, but a lot more cynical, like with her character. Like he and Clouzot used her well, only Clouzot like abused the actresses who worked on his movies, so Godard gets like better.
Godard just filmed them naked.
As you should, as you do. It's Brigitte Bardot.
Was he still married to Karina during this? He wasn't married to Wyzemski yet. I think he married her in 66 or 67. I don't remember. But yeah.
But I think it's great. I don't know. I feel like, well, not just because it's called Contempt, but like it holds like the filmmaking process in Contempt, or at least like the economical factors of it.
Oh,
and, like,
no, 100%.
Even the ideals of celebrity, and I think that's why it was using Brigitte Bardot. It's almost a deconstruction of a sex symbol within this world. It's kind of really beautiful, but just so cynical and empty.
I mean, he talks about stuff like that a lot in the book or in his lectures, because he talks about how people only think there's a section where he talks about how whether or not people think of the audience when they're making a movie, and he talks about how they only do insofar as they're a source of profit.
That's insane. Like
And he talks about like his shift to television later because of stuff like that. He starts making movies for television and trying to make smaller films. I mean, I'm a big Pedro Acosta fan, and that's like his whole thing is that he shifted to the style he's known for now just because he couldn't live with it anymore. He couldn't live with like the money and the producers and like the people looking over screenplays or spending time writing screenplays, you know, hiring people, you know, like the whole industry aspect to it. It was suffocating for him and he couldn't do it anymore.
I think I told you my feelings about like the viewer's interaction with art before, and I feel like Godard would agree.
Yeah.
To an extent, like I think that the viewer actually is more important than the art itself because the viewer transforms the art into what it will ultimately become, or at least they impart. They take it with them. The viewer is the transformative part of the art. It's not profit.
I might be wrong, but I think he doesn't even put his name as a director in Nouvelle Vague. I might be wrong. I know I remember reading like an interview where he talks about that, or like a desire to not have himself.
Well, I think that like when you watch a film, the viewer becomes an artist, at least for as long as they're engaging with it and as long as they're thinking about it. Like I'm fucking hungover today. I'm not like batting 1,000 right now, but like normally, like I try to like film criticism or film interaction should be an art unto itself as well, because like that's what makes the film even more powerful.
I mean, he was a critic first.
He was, and he was a very good one.
I mean, one would argue he never really stopped.
Right.
Yeah, he kind of all of his movies kind of come down to film criticism, I might argue. Funny enough,
think that viewing and engaging with art is just as important as creating the art itself. And I think Godard is unique and special in this that, like you said, a lot of his films are abstract, at least later in his career, but even his earlier kind of wild 60s chaotic stuff, it's like, it still depends so much on the audience and how the audience is going to interact with Anna Karina looking at them, you know, like it all depends on how much they're willing. I mean, we're not at Beavis of V yet, but I think he has to fully understand this by the way he films her watching The Passion of Joan of Arc. Like that's more artful than the movie, is her crying to it.
Yeah.
But yeah, sorry for cutting you off. What were you saying?
No, you're fine. I don't even remember what I was saying.
Did you watch Goodbye to Language in 3D?
No, I've seen it a few times actually, and I have yet to see it in 3D, which kind of makes me feel like I just haven't actually watched it because something is really lost in
I feel like it'd be S if I saw it in 3D, but like that said, it's B.
I mean, I really quite love it. It's just like there's kind of a something that feels missing with the images, and it's because they were although I can tell you, funny enough, he didn't see it in 3D himself on any of it until the premiere. He literally filmed the movie, threw it in 3D, didn't watch it, brought it to the premiere, watched it with the audience for the first time, and that's how he saw it. Like he did not but even so, like it was filmed with that in mind. So I've always felt, I mean, again, it's kind of returning to some age-old questions, which is like, what is lost in communication? It's not just in translation, but just even if you speak the same language, what is lost in the act of communicating? What is lost in the act of filming? And of course, the really kind of people he has this reputation for being, you know, such a uppity guy, I guess, or like an academic minded guy, but like a big part of this movie literally revolves around how he wishes he had the worldview of a dog. You know, because like a dog's worldview is so much more pure and
would you be upset with me if I put it at the top of B?
I would put it A.
Okay,
but yeah, I really want to see it the way it's...
I feel like if I saw it in 3D, it'd be so wild. And also, like, I do think he's one of the most effective, if not one of the greatest postmodern artists of all time. To call a piece Goodbye to Language, like you did it. You did it, bro. You did like the ultimate goal.
I mean, I live in Wisconsin, and David Bordwell lived here, and I heard stories about how every once in a while he would show his 3D copy of Goodbye to Language and provide like classes or something so people could watch it. But then he died recently. I was like, damn it. I mean, like, I'm sad he died, but also now I don't get to see
In Wisconsin? Good
Yeah,
God.
I mean they showed Phony Wars here recently too.
They never do cool stuff where I
I
live.
saw Streets of Fire on film recently. That is Vladimir and Rosa. It's another Zika Vertov movie. That is one I have not watched.
Okay.
It's I think the only one I haven't watched. I might be wrong though. Sympathy for the Devil. I
I know
never
that.
didn't watch it.
Oh, I did.
Oh, is
But
it good?
it's C tier. It's just it's literally how how the Stones recorded Sympathy for the Devil. It's like filming the entire recording process, but it's pretty fun. It's just that it pales in comparison to the Maisleys brothers also put out a documentary about them at the same time.
Hmm.
I forget, probably maybe it was called Gimme I don't remember what it was called, but it was about that time where like the Hells Angels, like they
Yeah,
had them
yeah.
as their bodyguards and they murdered someone at one of their concerts.
Oh yeah, I forgot about that.
That was a great, like, you can't compete with the Maisleys, who are maybe the masters of the documentary style. But that one was just about, I guess, the creation of art itself. You know,
Mm, mm.
it's all right. You got to really love that song, though. When you hear it enough times, you're like, really? The devil was with the Kennedys as well? Okay. Mick. Sorry, my issues are with Mick Jagger and not with Jean-Luc Godard.
Oh, Godard, the secret composer. I cannot tell what that is.
It looks like I should know it. Una Donna Sposata.
Am I insane? Am I getting gaslit right now? I actually don't know what that is.
Oh, A Married Woman, which is a 60s one I didn't watch. Didn't watch it.
No.
No,
Is it? And is that next one Far from Vietnam?
it better be. Because that looks like a Vietnamese person. We can call it that.
Sure, go for it.
Okay. Do you like it?
I didn't see it.
Okay, fuck.
I don't like anthology movies or like by multiple directors. Oh, there's a
I think
perfect.
some people may have been intimidated by this stream because they're like, man, I haven't seen too many Godard. Don't worry, neither have I.
I mean, I thought I'd
Apparently.
seen a lot, and now I keep saying
Oh,
like,
you would have looked like an expert with my at least 26 films.
no. There's a really perfect movie coming up, but it's after Pierrot le Fou. So
That's funny. That's so funny.
no, I actually love this movie. It's, I mean, like, I feel like it's a similar story for everyone. Everyone watches this movie like early on and just fall like this one inspired Ackerman to direct, I believe.
Right.
It
But
it
the difference between this and Breathless is that Pierrot le Fou doesn't feel too strikingly immature, or like it's not as
no, I mean it's about immature people,
yeah.
but it is not itself immature.
They
This
have some really beautiful moments that like are, I guess, immature in nature, but like I just
again,
like
I think
why
it's
don't
just
you talk to me?
depicting.
You're impossible to have a conversation with. Because I look at you with feelings and you speak to me with words, and we're seeing Godard start to play with like language itself just being inadequate. I mean, he did that in Vivre la Vie as well. He was always interested in that.
It
Pierre Le Fou is great.
I mentioned before that I always compare it with La Chinoise because this is kind of like the other side of that coin of like it's a movie about people that have an issue with how things are, but they're um I might agree, Jane. Well, no, it's my second or third favorite. It's my
Well,
second or third favorite, but we'll get back.
I respect you and Jane. I think you and Jane know a lot more about Godard than me, so I'll
Yeah.
put it down. But I get say on what's number one, so that's
You
fine.
do. It's your stream. No, no
Thank you.
to Jane, it's my second or third favorite
I'm not
movie.
gonna die on the Pierrot Le Fou hill.
But no, Pierre Le Fou, like it's because it's about people who are completely dissatisfied with their existence, but they kind of just react completely incoherently. You know, they just like rampage. They just hedonism. You know, they're just like fucking around, and then it ends sure enough with him dumping paint on his face and blowing himself up with dynamite. You know, like it compared to La Chinoise, which is about people who have similar feelings about how things are, but they organize and they focus on education. But that becomes part of the fun of Pierre Le Fou is that you're just watching this self-destruction from people that like these bourgeois you
Well,
know,
I
assholes.
believe you called this one a self-portrait, but I think this one's like
Yeah, I think it's the Pierrot le Fou is like the most representative of how he felt at that
I'm
time.
gonna sound super pretentious and say that it's cinema's self-portrait. I see a lot in there.
Yeah. I mean, there's a great Pedro Costa interview where he talks about how he went to it. He showed Pierre Le Fou, and all the young like students got bored watching it or were like falling asleep, and he got real pissed. And he's like, "What's wrong with you? It's got everything. It's got a girl.
It
It's
does.
got Jean-Paul Belmondo. It's bright colors. What the fuck do you want?" He's like, "What more do you want from a movie, you assholes?"
I posted like just clips of it on my Instagram, and like my normal not cinephile friends would respond to it and going, I don't know who that is, but he can get it. And I'm like, all right,
Yeah,
fair,
yeah,
fair.
oof, he is hot.
Another
No,
one of
it's super
Godard's
great.
big quotes are all you need to make a movie is a girl and a gun. So,
Yeah, which he references in Histoire du Cinema. There's
but I love Pierre Le Fou. I think
yeah,
it's easily, I think it's one of his best films. I think it's one of the best examples of what the French New Wave was trying to
mm,
accomplish within the 60s.
there,
Um, I
there
love
are
it. And it has his two, I think, most notable muses in it.
yeah.
Doing really well. It's not Anna Karina's best, though.
It yeah, I forgot what I was gonna say. It
You're going to say, you're right, Zach.
yeah,
You're
you're
so
right,
fucking
Zach. You're also
smart.
so handsome, and also everyone watching should give you money.
Oh my God.
And
Thank you. Thank you so much, Isabel.
but
My
it's one that
viewers
I
are
don't know
awesome.
if it's so high in my estimation from like nostalgia or otherwise, but like I do still place it pretty high for myself. Um,
What's up, Jack? Mr. Jack. What would be I don't know. What are your favorite Godard movies and what's your least favorite one? Let's talk about this one.
Ici et Alu. It's Here and Elsewhere. It's great. It's so good. It's
I don't know
his
what that is.
most direct movie aside from Notre Musique about Palestine.
Okay.
It's about it alternates between um overseas footage of him interviewing like Marxist radicals and reading like Mao and dealing with their very immediate material situation of oppression, and it alternates between that and footage of Western family, like suburban upper middle class families in their living rooms watching news stories about the Middle East on TV.
Well, that's
And
cool.
it's really compelling because it alternates between like platforming the voices of these people who are otherwise completely invisible or just straight up exploited, like their image. Again, it's that thing about like representation itself becomes a cruelty, like
Oh,
they're
I love that.
how are they depicted, what is lost in that depiction of them by the news, by 24-hour news cycles and things like that. And I mean, I feel like more and more Godard also wrestled with like kind of performative activism and stuff like that, and so these are all things that come up in, yeah, I think in his mind. But yeah, just kind of like this disconnect, this inability to meet these two worlds that are absolutely polar opposite. This kind of safety that's predicated on exploitation, and this total lack of security, and this sense that they could die at like literally any moment because of their situation. It's completely different worlds. They can't, which is again why it's called Here and Elsewhere. It's like completely different universes from each other, and it's really, I think, radical in that way.
Well, that sounds
I
really
would put
cool.
it S tier. I would put it S tier. I quite love Here and Elsewhere. It's great. I watched it projected on a wall, really, really big, because it was
Nice.
when I moved into my first apartment. And I didn't have a TV yet, but I had my brother's projector, so I just projected on like a giant wall as big as I could, and it was a great way to watch it. I also watched Autumn Afternoon by Ozu that way, but anyway, that's neither here nor there. It's neither here nor elsewhere. I have not watched the Jane Fonda movie.
Yeah, me neither.
It just never. captured my attention every time I like looked into people's like analyses or discussions about it. I was like, this sounds boring. Like, there's so
Right.
many other Godard movies I
Well,
would
he
have
made it with someone else, right? Like that's
maybe, I don't know for sure. It
yeah.
was
Oh,
just
that
like
was his
always
Gorin.
movies I would rather watch.
That was a Gorin thing.
Maybe. I mean, I trust Gordon generally, but yeah. I also have not seen
Me neither.
like Carabiners.
It looks like a movie that doesn't actually exist.
We're on a string now though of stuff I have seen.
Good.
Um In Praise of Love is so good. I need
Yes.
to watch it again because it's been a long time, but it's so good. It's so good. It's also like the one where he most explicitly talks about how much he hates Spielberg. Like
Right. Right. Right.
because one of the plot threads in the movie is that there's this elderly couple that survived the Holocaust, and Spielberg is trying to get them to release the rights to their life story so he can make a movie about it. And it's just so vicious. Because and again, this whole discourse that Godard is involved with has also gotten him a lot of controversy. Like people and mostly it comes down to people not understanding what he's getting at when he takes issue with these like depictions. But you know, he's you know, I hate Hanukkah. I fucking hate Hanukkah. But it's that thing about like how do you that thing Hanukkah talked about how do you make a
Fucking
suspense
hate Hanukkah.
how do you make suspense out of whether or not someone's going to go to the gas chamber? You know, that's just
Right.
fundamentally like
Right.
a grotesque thing to do. And Godard, yeah, is like disgusted
Yeah. I
by
remember.
Schindler's List.
I think it was in. It might have even been that film, or just an interview he had about that film, where he was like, "Well, you think Schindler's List is really touching, but you have to imagine in between all these Holocaust scenes, like people are eating hot dogs from
It
like crew
literally,
tables and from people that are being underpaid. Like he went like all through it, and it's like
yeah,
I
it's
love
like
that.
Godard is like one of the few people I think that like considers like how responsibility on the part of a filmmaker factors into what you choose to make movies about. It's like just because you can doesn't mean you should.
Exactly.
You know, like and I mean there's more to this movie than this. I mean it's literally named after a I never know how to say his name.
Dude,
Badiou. Badiou. I don't know how to say his name, but the writer. It's named after a book. And there's more to it than that, but I don't know. It's just like as someone who is fascinated by the perverse mind of Spielberg, that this has always been kind of the angle I bring to the movie, even though I think it has a lot more to offer than just that dialogue. But I should probably watch it again just to kind of get more out of it. But it's just I don't know. This is just the thing that comes into my mind a lot when I.
do you have any clue how he felt about Louis Malle?
Nah, he's talked about it. I just don't recall what he said. He had a number of dialogues, I think, with I'm having a moment. Claude
Oh,
Lanzmann.
okay.
Because Claude
I'm
Lanzmann.
wondering how he felt about Au revoir, Goodbye Infants. I'm wondering how he felt about that.
I don't know. I recall him at some point talking about Night and Fog, but I don't know if I ever heard him talk about that. But
I
no,
think he would have loved Zazie Dan's La Metro. I can't see him liking any other one though.
yeah.
But Jack's favorite Godard film is Contempt. Top 5. We got it on the S tier.
Histoire, histoire.
Is that on here?
I can't tell, but
It was on mine.
well, let's just pretend it's on here. Let's just talk about Histoire du Cinema. It's kind of the height of art.
It would be S tier.
It would be S tier. I would I mentioned my because it's my top three is Socialism, Notre Musique, and Histoire. Histoire might be second, but it's just so fucking good. Um, I've I've compared in the past Godard to James Joyce, who is my favorite writer.
Makes sense. You got a little Ulysses in him.
Yeah, well, actually, because Ulysses and Finnegan's Wake are my favorite books, and I see a lot of Finnegan's Wake in Histoire du Cinema because, in the sense that it's kind of like tongue in cheek, because Histoire, the title has multiple meanings. It's like history of cinema, histories of cinema, but then also it's a Swiss joke, because in for the Swiss saying Histoire du Cinema out loud, basically sounds like the phrase that means bullshit. And that's a deliberate joke on his part, because he's calling out like this isn't a real history. And people have criticized the movie for inaccuracy, for a number of things, like inaccuracies. Like he says things in the movie as if they're like historical truths that are not true in the
But that's
movie.
what's fun. That's what's
And
fun.
exactly. And he also
The documentary betrays itself, betrays the language,
exactly.
betrays the form, like
He
cinema
also
does.
it gets a lot of crap for its Eurocentrism, but then that also is significant. You know, people have been like, it ignores say like Indian film, which has like its own rich history, and Godard completely neglects it. But that's part of the point, is that it's not the history of cinema, it's his personal history of cinema, and it's dealing with like these multiple narratives, these multiple historical narratives, and how we kind of create canons for ourselves. You know, like recently there was internet discourse about Griffith, and how like it would be so much easier if we all just stopped talking about D.W. Griffith, because then we would stop treating him like he's important. And the problem with that is like, no, it's too late. Like we said he was important, and that made him important now forever, whether it was true or not. You know, it's like we construct these histories, we construct these historical narratives, and that makes them real. And so that's why I think this reminds me of Joyce anyway, is because Finnegan's Wake is sort of Joyce's very subjective personal history of Ireland, and human history, and the history of art, and it's his version of these things. And in the same way, Histoire du Cinéma is the history of cinema through Godard's big glasses. You know, it's his kind of vision of these things, and it in its own way kind of encourages you to then construct like histories of cinema, navigate these, you know, these genealogies. And also, of course, like Joyce, he's fucking hilarious.
Right.
People don't give Godard enough credit for how like funny he is, sometimes in very crude ways. I mean, like one of the movies that's we're gonna come up to eventually on here, because it was on here, is literally named after shit. It's called Number Two. That's like a literal shit joke, and he makes jokes like that a lot. I mean, like he's made movies with like fart jokes in it. You know, like
Right.
you know, he's not the most eloquent man sometimes, but like neither was Joyce.
Well, I think you spoke about Histoire du Cinema really well. Well put. Have you written about that before? Because I would read
No,
something. Okay,
no, but
then
I should.
do it.
I've watched it in full once, and I've watched individual episodes from it like in isolation multiple times. My favorite episode is the one, I think it's called I think it's literally called the New Wave, or like the Nouvelle Vague. It's the one where it ends with like a 5-minute montage of Italian cinema, because he talks about his extreme reverence for Italian cinema. And you see like everything from Rossellini to Fellini to Pasolini, and so on and so forth. And
Nice.
it's a really gorgeous sequence that
Yeah.
it like moves me to tears. It's so beautiful, that sequence. But anyway, yeah, Histoire du Cinéma is incredible. It's
Great. And La Chinoise is actually on the S tier as well. And Praise of Love was great. Put it on the A tier though. We haven't got there. We didn't. Neither of us saw Hail Mary.
no,
Or maybe A Married Woman.
yeah. Like I said, I've been wanting to say.
Side, kind of relevant note, I started binging Truffaut thanks to your videos, especially your video on The Last Metro and Day for Night. You were there on Day for Night, Isabelle.
I was.
Revisiting some classics, seeing some new ones.
Where
It's
I
been
made
fun.
like the most backhanded praise of Day for Night possibly imaginable.
Whatever. Day for Night's better than any film Godard ever made. Gonna move on from
You
that.
make me hate Truffaut just
Day for Night's one of like the 10 best movies ever.
just simply out of spite. I want to hate Truffaut more after being in
Oh my god, literally lost 5 viewers after I said that.
Like I will be like, Truffaut's pretty good, and then I will spend 5 minutes in a room with you, and I'm like, I'm glad Truffaut is dead. Like
Truffaut just had a better philosophy, better politics, better films.
No, he did not have better.
He was so much better.
That's a foul take.
Day for Night is, man, that'd be in the other tier.
I like Day for Night. I mentioned it in the video, but just because of how shameless it is about being bullshit.
Oh, it's great.
Which is,
It's
of course,
great.
why Godard hated it.
Cinema's a lie. Godard tried to make it a truth. That's his
Truth at
biggest
24 frames a
flaw.
second. There is a Godard quote that I do kind of detest, and it's where he says people need to read less books and learn how to read images or something like that. Or he just says like people need. I don't know if he said that other part, but he said like people need to learn how to read images. I'm like, no, people need to read more books. I'm like, um, then they will know how to read images, but only if they know how to read books,
I
which no
think
one
that,
knows how to do in cinephilia, which is how we end up with Truffaut.
yeah,
But
the largest difference between the two directors, in my opinion, is why I find Truffaut to be so fascinating. Is like one of Truffaut's famous quotes is like, I prefer the image of life itself over life itself. I don't think Godard would ever say that. In fact, one of Godard's quotes are like, you can't compare a film to a woman because you can't touch a film. You can like you can touch a
yeah,
person, that kind of
yeah,
thing. But I just find it fascinating though that like Truffaut's basically this little genius psychopath who cares way more about like this artificiality that he knows he's like it means more to him than actual life. I
yeah.
love that. But
I always read Godard as being a guy interested in how you can see you have how to navigate the lies and finding the kernels of truth within the lies that make a
mhm.
film, because film is made up of illusions and lies and such.
Do you mind
Truth, what?
taking over for just 1 second? I have to plug my
Sure,
laptop in.
sure. Zach is lying about everything. Truffaut is a fraudulent artist. He's, mm-mm. I mean, I love Jules and Julie Jim, but that one is very special to me. But otherwise, Truffaut is kind of fraudulent. Let's be honest now. Jane, are you here? You agree with me, right? Jane, if you're here, please tell me you agree with me. I mean, like Truffaut's got some hits. I really like The Last Metro. I've always thought Shoot the Piano Player was a lot of fun, but Day for Night I kind of like in spite of itself, which is what I tried to get across in that conversation we had. Like he's fascinating though. Like I agree with Zach. Truffaut is fascinating. It's just like I'm like at what cost? It's just, he's like he's literally Dawson. He's literally like a I don't know. I can understand Godard's reservations about Truffaut and his kind of resistance to Truffaut, because I can understand how someone like Jean-Luc would feel betrayed by how Truffaut went about things as he got older. Like Truffaut was very intent on being industry. That said, Truffaut's criticism is fucking spectacular. It's really great. I've read a lot of. He's not my favorite of the new wave critics. My favorite is actually Rivette. I would say Rivette, then Godard, then Truffaut. But Truffaut is actually an extremely cogent critic. He's a great film critic, I think. I love his reviews of like Hawks and some of the Hitchcock reviews, although not all of them. But and then Rivette is the best of the bunch on that front. I should get Zach to talk about Rivette. That would be the epic one. That would be the epic one. Oh, there you go. I was just talking about that book.
Oh, this one.
Yeah, I read that book.
Yeah, it's by a really good filmmaker. Maybe you've heard of him,
What,
Francois Truffaut.
Zach? Could you hear me?
No.
Okay, I just was like, the second you went off, I was like, Zach is talking out of his ass. He's fucking lying to you.
No, I'm not. I'm
I
not at
gave
all.
like my unfiltered take on Truffaut while you were
This
talking, but I was saying that I actually love Truffaut's film criticism. He's not my favorite of the new wave critics is Rivette, but Truffaut is fucking great.
this is a great director. I'm not making any friends on this live stream.
2 or 3 things I know about her. What, Zach? Tell me 2 or 3 things you know
That I
about.
know about Truffaut, I'll
Know
tell you.
about Isabelle.
Okay, 2 or 3 things I know about Isabelle. She's, well, a liar. 2, she's one of the best people on the planet. And 3, she thinks Jules and Jim is better than Notre Musique.
I actually do love Julie Jim. Julie Jim.
Two or three things I know about her I think is good, but like I said earlier, I think he made Made in USA and Two or Three Things at the same time. To me, it's like the top of the seas. I thought Made in USA was just more radical, more biting. Two or Three Things is really good though. Like, remember what I said earlier?
I would put
This
it
kind of director where like a C tier movie is on par with like a normal director's S tier movie. So it's
That's
like,
fair. I think I would still put it a little bit higher. I would have minimum argue for B, but
okay, but at the end,
I quite like it. I weirdly saw it only like a year ago, which felt strange to me because it was weird to like watch a Godard movie from that era for the first time and it not being the year 2014 anymore. Like that was kind of a bizarre experience for me. Because I forgot you could just watch his older movies. But so I kind of felt like a disconnect is that like I almost feel like I should have watched it earlier. But I quite like it. Yeah, I agree with Jag. I mean, not totally.
Jack, what do you think of Made in USA though? Which one do you like better?
I wouldn't put it S tier, but I agree that it should be higher.
It's not going higher than Made in USA. Those movies are locked in my mind. I almost feel like they should be.
It's just I don't know. It's a great example of kind of like all the usual 60s Godard ideas, you know, difficulties with communication, difficulties with ideology and like knowing what one should believe and like what is the right belief, quote unquote, and things like that. Like just this like overwhelming marketplace of ideas.
All right, this is how we're gonna do this. End of A, and then this one can go up on B.
Okay, I'll take what I can get. Is that Weekend?
It is. I've always given too many Godards a perfect score. I like Two, Three Things more, but not by much. They're both really good. It's just Made in USA. I remember the first time I watched Made in USA was on like TCM, Turner Classic Movie Channel, like 2:30 in the morning, and I'm like, holy shit, they're trying to turn us all into Marxists at 2:30 in the morning. This is great. Oh my god. But yeah, Weekend's great, but I don't think it's S tier.
I used to hate it.
I used to think I found it
with
aggravating, and then I warmed up to the chaos of it.
I think when I first saw it, it was the real early one for me, and I was still enough in like my film bro era that I was just like this asshole Godard with it. And now I watch movies that are like literally an hour and 40 minutes of a guy pointing a camera at a cloud with nothing happening. But at the time, I was like this pretentious shit. But I had kind of a coming around moment to it in college, watching it in a class, and it was funny to me because everyone in the class fucking hated it except for me and one other student who were having the time of our lives watching it. We were cracking up because it's just such a funny movie.
It is funny. It might be his most effective comedy. Like it is a comedy. It's a real comedy.
I was like, the two of us were like cracking the fuck up, and everyone else thought we were assholes because they found the movie annoying. But I was like, come on, man! Like, look at the Jean-Pierre Leo in this movie. This is so goofy. Like,
it's aggravating at first, but like a part of me feels like Godard thinks that comedy, like at its heart, should aggravate part of the viewer.
Yeah.
So
like the long take and stuff like that. The part where you rear end somebody. Like, yeah, I just thought this movie was funny as hell. I enjoyed it a lot more. I don't know how much coherent or interesting like analysis I have to offer on it. Mostly because I feel like so much has been kind of like said about it. But it's really entertaining. It's really fun, and I forget if it happened. It was before May '68, so yeah, because I think it came out the same year as Les Chinois. So it does feel like it's born out of those kind of tensions, though. And again, that same theme that pops up a lot in the mid '60s for him, which is just like in response to all these things I hate about the world, just like, you know, everything blows up and, you know, anarchic and chaotic and, you know, like Pierrot le Fou.
Yeah.
I think it should be watched with Pierrot le Fou. I said faux, it's fou. Pierrot le Fou. But
I think it's A. I think it's an A tier movie. I think it's really good.
I might put it B, but I'll say A is fair. I'll agree with you on that. What does that say? I can't see.
Un film comme la route 13. Do you like my French?
Fuck you. I can't actually tell what that is. I need to work
Type in unfilm Comme la Routrez. I don't know how to be
Is
more
that
clear.
his might be like his really long movie he made. I don't know. I genuinely don't know.
Unfilm Comme la Autres.
I should have prepared more.
I don't know.
I have a theory of what it is, but I don't know.
It's only 2 hours long.
Interesting. What's it translated as?
Oh man, I just exited it. It's a film like any other.
Oh, I do know that one. I haven't seen it, but I do know that one.
I don't know that one either. I know this one. I love A Band Apart.
I hate it.
Why do you hate it?
Boring as shit. Oh
Why
my-
do you hate good fucking movies?
boring as shit?
How is it
Oh
boring?
my god. I really don't. I found it obnoxious.
When the three of them are like dancing and then the music dips out and then we get the narrator giving us the interiority of all
I
these
think it's
characters.
literally
while
my
they're
least
dancing.
favorite Godard, actually.
I think it's literally Itu Mama Tambien in the 60s. It's fucking great.
That's not the win you think it is.
It is the win I think it is. You don't like good movies. Itu Mama Tambien is so fucking good. Did you leave?
I thought my cat was screaming to come in, or one of them.
Nah, if I talk about Alfonso Cuarón, you're like, get the fuck out of here.
Oh, so how long have you hated autistic people?
Not as long as I've hated the Jews like Godard.
I'm gonna make a film with a scene that's just Zach drawing the Star of David.
I'm gonna make a cut of this live stream and like
that
gonna seem ridiculous.
JLG, the self-portrait. Literally, there's parts where he has a maid walking around, he just smacks her ass, and then it cuts to him drawing a Star of David.
I love A Band Apart. I feel like it's it's Melville if he ever gave a fuck about like sensitivity, you know? Like it's really good. Not saying that. Okay, no, I am saying Melville's insensitive. Actually,
I just couldn't get into it. I do love the dance scene though.
That is so, when that happened, my mind was blown. I was like 17, but still, I was like, "Holy fuck, this is amazing!" I have to dip, unfortunately. Can't wait to listen to this after the fact. More live streams, Zach. We need them. Much love. Good to be part of this one. Thanks for coming, Jack.
I think that's Wind from the East.
I mean, I'll put it above Weekend. I love A Band Apart.
I think that's Wind from the East, which is really good. It's I think the last Ziga Vertov movie. No, it's not. But it. Oh yeah, it might be actually. There's two more. It's one of his Ziga Vertov movies. It has obviously Anne Wyzemski in it. It's the one with a lot of face paint. That's not called Pierrot le Fou. It's the other one.
Great. You think I'd like that one?
I do really like that one. Do
you think I would?
No.
Oh, okay.
I think you'd find it middle of the road. Probably.
Well, it's not.
There's a great sequence about like the Stalin question. I think it's in that one. I might be wrong.
The fuck is the Stalin question?
Just like a reckoning with Stalin as like a communist, and like how
has he ever done the JQ before?
I don't know. Yeah, it's a very theory dialogue heavy movie about like praxis. I quite like it.
All right.
Dear viewer, never heard of this one? We can just skip it.
Fuck you to hell.
No, this one I wouldn't put it that high, but
I will. It's not moving. It's staying there.
I think that along with Pierre Le Fou was like the first I like fell in love with.
It's the Godard movie I've seen the most. I've seen it like 20 times. I love it.
I was like really in love with it when I first saw it. I almost said when it came out, I wasn't alive. When I saw it, it really had a profound effect on me.
It still has a profound effect on me. I love it because it's like derivative. It's so awesome. It's so cool. And it's like he genuinely took Pabst's Pandora's Box and like imprinted it in the 60s. Same with the tableau structure. Same with I think he saw more deeply into Anna Karenina than Pabst saw into Louise Brooks. Like he saw so deeply. And that's when it's so jarring when Karina like looks into the camera, I'm just seeing so much. Her crying, watching Passion of Joan of Arc, her dancing at that smoky pool hall or whatever. I think it's beautiful. I think it's about the physical poetry of a muse, and I think it's beautiful. I think it's S. I think it's one of the best films ever made. Love it.
I don't have much to add.
It's No Day for Night though. What's this one?
Germany year 990.
I saw that pop up a bunch.
Yeah, it's a sequel to Alphaville.
Really?
Yeah, but set in 1990 Germany.
Is it better than Alphaville?
I haven't seen it. Well, I've seen actually some of it.
Okay.
But the version I watched was fucked up, so I stopped watching it. But it literally like it's a Lemmy Caution movie again about him navigating like a changed Germany. And I recall like secret agents or something hunting him, but yeah, it's literally just old Lemmy Caution again. But for some reason it's not the future anymore, it's the 90s. I'm looking forward to seeing it properly. I was pretty frustrated because I really was hyped to watch it, and then when I started watching it, it was like shit was corrupted in the video quality, and I think it's on YouTube now, so or it might have always been, I just wasn't aware, but I'm looking forward to seeing it. This is number 2.
This is number 2.
This is great as a Warhol fan. So good. It reminds me a lot of Warhol.
Where would you put it?
Upper A, leaning towards S, but I'll say upper A. It's about it's a movie where there's multiple screens, like it's kind of showing multiple perspectives through multiple images all playing at the same time of like a family in a house, and it has a kind of this mechanical view of bodily functions, be it like sex or shitting and so on and so forth. It's like very unfiltered and very which kind of reminds me, because there's a quote about from Godard where he talks from, I think it was from the lecture series, where he talks about how he would like to make the movie he dreams of making is one about like physical contact, but like in like a sexual context, like the ability to make a movie about touching a woman or touching a man and stuff like that, but how you're not allowed to make movies like that. And so I part of me feels like this is gesturing towards that.
Nice.
And it reminds me a lot of Chelsea Girls.
Oh, nice.
And stuff like Sleep by Warhol, just like very interested in the body. I should watch it again, actually. Now that I'm talking about it, I'm like, I should watch this again. It's really good. It kind of snuck up on me when I first watched it. I was like, yeah, it was pretty okay. And then like the longer went on, I was like more and more compelled. And then after I watched it, I started talking to people about it. I was like, this is really good. King Lear is great. It's so good.
Is it?
It's great. It's got what's her fucking name from the John Hughes movies? With red hair. She's in all the John Hughes movies.
Really? Ringwald's in it?
Yeah, she's in it. She's like the main character.
I didn't know that.
Or not the main character, but a main character. Yeah, she's in it. It's really bizarre because this came out in the 80s. It's like, what the fuck was she doing being in a Godard movie between making like The Breakfast Club? But yeah, she's in it. It's about like a descendant of Shakespeare after the I think it's the death of poetry or something, or like the death of art, and this distant descendant of Shakespeare is trying to revive it. And Godard is in it as a guy named Mr. Pluggy, or like Dr. Pluggy or something, and it's literally just Godard covered in wires that makes it look like power cables and cords, and it makes it look like he has dreadlocks because he's just covered in cords, and he's just smoking a cigar, and he doesn't talk, he only communicates by farting.
I have to watch that. Norman Mailer is King Lear.
Yeah, so like he's trying to talk to Professor Pluggy and he's just responding by farting. Like he's
That's
literally making a
great.
movie about Shakespeare where quite literally shits on Shakespeare.
My
Um,
wife Julie Delpy's in it too. It's awesome. Peter Sellers is
yeah,
in
she's
it.
also in Histoire du Cinema, if you recall.
I don't.
Yeah, she's in it. She's in it for a
Ah,
bunch. But
Williams
I
sucks.
forgot she's in King Lear. Actually, I forgot that she's in it. It must not be a huge role. But no, it's like a movie about. It's sort of like played up as like a post-apocalyptic movie, sort of, but like the death of like beauty and art, and which is becomes a common thing. Like, how do you reckon with a world that has like been
Yeah.
so evil across the 20th century and kind of find a way to resurrect it. And I found it quite moving. I didn't totally understand it on first viewing, which is so it deserves a second go around. But even then, as is the case with a lot of good art, you don't have to immediately like understand what he's saying to it to understand like the feelings that it's expressing and like the longing he's expressing, which is something I think he's exceptionally good at, which I will get at in like 5 or 6.
Well, yeah, he feels that language betrays us. So love
uh,
that. Well, do you find this controversial? I put Alphaville in the D tier.
that's kind of where I generally put it, but I get, like I mentioned before, I feel like I've been historically uncharitable towards it.
But it's just not good. It's just
I
not a
think
good
if
movie.
I have a theory that if I were to watch it again, I would like it more, but that might just be wishful thinking. I just
I
couldn't get into it. I don't know what it was. I just could not get into it.
Since I'm here, I don't like Oh Woe Is Me. I
No,
kind of
you're crazy for that. It's so good.
really
It's goated. Oh man, that movie's great.
goaded.
Yeah, that movie is great. Woe is me? It's so good. Gerard Depardieu plays God.
It's terrible. Okay,
He plays God. Come on, that's amazing.
it'll go at the bottom. Just for that. Holy shit!
No, no,
I
no,
didn't
no,
watch
no.
Passion though. Is this when he was trying to be like? Well, the thing about Oh Woe Is Me, I feel like Godard was trying to make more accessible films, and they just were terrible.
Oh, I don't read Oh Woe's Me as an attempt at being accessible. If anything, kind of the opposite.
I thought that was in the same period as Passion or whatever.
It's 90s and Passion is 80s, so they were
Okay.
in relatively close proximity. But I think First Name Carmen is more of an attempt at being accessible,
All
sort
right.
of. But no, Oh Woe's Me is great. I don't total I saw it for the first time relatively recently, so I'm still trying to like figure out what I actually think it's about, but it does get into a lot of my favorite pet themes as far as I can tell, like embodiedness and stuff like that, like what it's like to be stuck in a body and stuff like that, considering it's literally about God longing to experience what it's like to be embodied.
Do you know what was better than that? City of Angels. Michael, the John Travolta Angel film. Godard wishes he could have accomplished what they
No,
accomplished with
no,
City of
no,
Angels.
no. It's real good. It's also just gorgeously shot. I love the colors. I love the colors in 90s Godard. Something about them just gets my jimmies rustling.
And
Uh,
I don't want the world to see me, 'cause I don't think that they'd understand. It's better.
Passion I want to see. It's the ones I have like next up for like my most immediate thing I want to see are Passion, Germany, or 99.0 and Nouvelle Vague. But
Have you seen Detective?
no,
Okay. Go off, Queen.
greatest movie ever. It's actually one of my top 10 movies.
Is it?
Just ever. Yeah, no, I love film socialism.
I rewatched it like 2 days ago, and yeah, it's brilliant. I love it.
It
Recently, I spent like a few days on a cruise ship recently, and I'm
Well,
like,
do you know
oh
which cruise ship this was?
yeah, it's like the same. This one crashed somewhere, right?
Yeah,
Like,
the Costa Concordia. It sank like 2 months later. It's oh man, this movie was one that like I saw for the first time. I had no idea what the fuck it was going on about, so I watched it again. I still had no idea what was going on about. I've seen it like 4, 5 times maybe now, and I have to ask, which version did you watch as far as subtitles? Were the subtitles clear?
yeah.
That was not the intended version.
I watched it on Tubi, like all cinephiles watch their
The
films.
intended version has what Godard calls the Navajo subs, which are fractured. He does not word for word translate for the subs. They are in bits and pieces, which is something he, I think, got from Straub and Huye, where Straub and Huye would not translate everything being said. They would only translate bits and pieces enough so that you get the gist of what's going on, but you're not getting every little detail. And Godard started doing that more and more and more as time wore on. And it kind of comes to a head in film socialism, where like someone will be rambling off like a really wordy long sentence, and it'll be subtitled as like 4 words with massive spaces in between them, and it's supposed to emulate like how people who have like an incomplete understanding of English language because it's their second language, like how they might speak, um,
Okay.
and or whatever language you happen to watch it in. And also partly because it's not always in film socialism really essential to know exactly what they're saying. It's more essential to get like the gist of what they're engaging with. But like on the Costa Concordia section, the whole opening section, that's not really like you don't need to know everything they're talking about. Like, and he's thinks the viewer is smart enough to make the right connections to get what he's getting at, and which I appreciate. Considering this is a very like egalitarian, a very democratic film, like it's a movie about uh, uh, the capacity to for young people to change the world. Because like the middle section is literally about 2 kids who are mad at the mistakes of their parents' generation, and so these 2 children run for office and win, which is like the most beautiful thing. You know, Godard's idea of like a utopia is that the children actually rise up, become politically self-aware, run for office and win and make a better world because the adults of the world can't do it. And then the whole end section, you know, traveling the world, going to Potemkin, you know, it's just it's stunning. It's a movie about phones and digital
Right.
cameras. Everyone has the capacity to make cinema now. It's not contained by the industry. You know, you can break out of the, you do not have to be industry to make cinema, to make political cinema, or to make anything. Everyone has the power. Cameras are democratized now. You know, you're not paying for like a Bolex camera and then a bunch of money for film stock and then sending the film stock in to get, you know, set up and then buying a projector and then trying to find a venue to project. You don't have to do shit like that anymore. I can take a video on my phone, make a movie, and then put it on YouTube, and anyone can watch it. And so he sees the revolutionary potential in that, and I feel like that's a big part of what the movie's getting at. There's more nuances to it that I'm still kind of like getting through, like the whole plot thread in the first part about gold, this search for hidden gold, and stuff like that. I find the first section to be the most like what's the word I'm looking for? Kind of not elliptical, maybe elliptical. The hardest to navigate.
It's my favorite section. Well, since I've been on that cruise ship, I'm like, oh, this feels so physical, visceral,
Yeah,
and it was it its first digital like HD too, because it was like
I don't
it felt so fucking
maybe
like real, and it made me hate capitalism just by showing
yeah
me like the
all
floating
these
casino, right?
yeah,
But
and
I think
it also by the way got him yet again accusations of anti-Semitism.
I wonder how it got.
The secret gold, Nazi gold or something. But yeah. Um, God, this movie has inspired me to no end. It's basically completely inspired the kind of stuff I want to do.
Also, I forgot Patti Smith was in it for like 30 seconds. That's
Yeah, literally, they
amazing.
put her in like top billing, and if you look it up on Letterboxd, she's in like the banner. But then literally, she's only in there for like 2 shots.
Still, at my nerdiest, I wish I could be a fly on the wall for them meeting each other. That's awesome.
Godard and Patti Smith
But
hanging out.
I also think that like how you experience the art matters, right? Like you were saying in the right sort of way. I loved watching it on Tubi recently, like Because like imagine you're watching a movie on Lifetime and it's about like a battered woman, and then like it's split into commercials of like buy cleaning products and like Cheerios. It like
Exactly.
it elevates it. So when I watched it on Tubi, like you'd watch 20 minutes and then a literal 5-minute ad for HPV vaccinations would pop up.
Literally,
And I'm like,
literally,
this
literally.
makes it better. This makes it so insane to me.
Yeah.
But content of the film, it's wonderful. Vive isn't going anywhere though. Oh, what do you think? There you go.
Oh no, no, you had it right the first time.
No, I love I love My Life to Live so much. It's
Yeah.
beautiful.
But also the last section where it's like dealing with like
These kids
revolution.
like accusing they're both accusing each other. The parental system is like, you don't love me, I don't respect you. It's like there's
Yeah, I mean,
actual there's this beautiful part. I'm sorry for cutting you off real
no,
quick,
go
but
for it.
like
You do.
once we get to them, like at the gas station with the donkey, we go into the mother, and the mother says some of the coolest, most postmodern shit I've ever heard, where she's talking about like she's a character in a film, but she doesn't know it. She doesn't have any woes or any like any doubts, because that's not written for her to have.
Mhm.
Like it's fucking phenomenal. There's so much in that film that like just so much food for thought, and it's confrontational as fuck near the end, where the film itself kind of devolves into a really challenging accusation to the audience itself. I think makes it implicit in what it's talking about.
Yeah, I would agree. I love all the students, the kids on the Odessa steps.
Yes.
You know, alternating between like the real world like tragedy of it, then like the cinematic rendition of it that's become arguably more famous than the event itself. You know, like the Battleship Potemkin, and then like the return there. You know, 100 years later. It's fascinating. It's really stunning. I still struggle so much with the last section, like knowing everything he was getting at, but that's because I think he like trusts the viewer enough to take away the right things from it without knowing exactly what it meant to him. But also just like the last section, like I said before, even when I don't understand all of it, it's so unimaginably moving to me to watch. Like it moves me to no end.
I actually think the last 10 minutes are the most difficult to interpret, but or articulate, because as you said before, it's more about feeling at the end.
I do think more than anything, it's just like his most optimistic movie.
It actually is
really like really utopian film. It's kind of amazing that he made the Image book after it. But it's so good. It's so good.
What is this?
Is that Keep Your Right Up? I can't tell. I need to
clearly sawing the Ta Droit.
I need to get better at my French. I've
mastered it.
I've been not keeping up with my French like I should.
I haven't seen it.
Yeah, it's Keep Your Right Up. I've heard it's really good. I haven't seen it though. I want to, but
I don't think I've seen
the one where the poster is Godard going like.
Okay.
Yeah. Lottie in Italia, it's okay. I wasn't like super overwhelmed by it, but it's good.
Okay.
It's good.
I believe you. Comment ça va?
I'm okay.
I was just checking.
I haven't seen it.
Okay, me neither. And the last one.
That means how are you? No, I haven't seen that either.
All right, we ended on a bang.
I mean, I can see if there's any big ones I have opinions about that we didn't mention. Actually, I've got a few.
They weren't on the list?
Yeah.
There were at least 26.
Yeah. We didn't get to, I mean, a lot of his short films, obviously, but that's understandable. Meeting Woody Allen. The funniest movie ever made. Let's got to most of the big ones I see. Obviously, his most recent one, Phony Wars, which is once again so good. so good. Really sad, obviously, to watch.
Right.
Knowing, you know, that he's dead now. And of course, I believe it ends with something about him saying something about hold on, let me find it. I gotta find the exact words before I say something real heinous. He says something about Jewish plots at the end, and then the movie ends.
Oh, thanks for coming to the stream.
How else could Godard end? How else could he end? Between one final reason for people.
Well, this was our tier, and we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16 that neither of us have seen. So there's still room to explore. And we both agreed that the best Godard film is My Life to Live, Vivre sa vie. All right. Oh. What? Let's end this with sentimentality. At the end of the day, what does Godard mean to you in your relationship with film itself?
Me?
Yeah.
Oh, I thought we were offline.
No.
No, he's, I mean, one of my favorite filmmakers, but also just like one of the like 2 or 3 that legitimately changed like what I personally want to do with art creation or what I think should be achieved with it. I mean, I when I went to, I was really getting into his later stuff when I was in college, and so that was obviously a point in time where I was trying to figure out like what I wanted to do moving forward, and so many of my friends and people were like going to California and shit and trying to work in like Hollywood, and that just never sat right with me. And especially after getting into Godard, it's just like I found this alternative, this thing where it's like it doesn't have to be entangled with industry and money and this kind of cinematic legacy of exploitation, exploitation. I mean, like even stuff I like today that comes out is still so entangled with ways of exploiting people, like how Christopher Nolan movies, they like source out overseas who edits or not edits, but like parts of the production process. And so it's all tangled together in these kind of inequalities, these kind of institutional racism, things like that. It's all together, and it really becomes feels disempowering and kind of demoralizing. And so getting into Godard, it felt like kind of like a whole world opened up that I didn't know existed prior. All these possibilities for how you can make films in today's world that are significant and also don't have to rely on you having, $4 billion and being named James Cameron.
Right.
And also maybe don't have to rely on like things qualities that are kind of taken for granted, but that you don't necessarily have to do, like screenplays or professional actors. You don't have to use professional actors. You can use amateur actors. You can just film regular people, and that can still constitute, cinema and filmmaking. And, it really expanded the horizons for me, Godard. And I think that's ultimately what I think of when I think of his work, is someone who is constantly self-criticizing, constantly self-doubting, constantly revising his views of the world, and constantly changing himself to adapt. And not just to adapt, but to survive and continue doing what he does. When something wasn't working for him, he just changed himself and moved forward. And so even when you don't agree with an argument he makes, because there's some movies he made that I don't like, and there's some movies he made that like I don't agree with what he says, but it's just like the process itself is the inspiring part. It kind of reminds me of Abel Ferrara's Pasolini movie, where he makes the point, which I interpreted as a movie about how like Pasolini's masterpiece was not any one film he made, but like the way he made films and the way he worked and the way he lived his life was kind of the model for success that we should aspire to. And that's kind of how I feel about Godard, is like this model for how we can act as artists.
I suppose that goes with my next question of, you and I can both point to how his 60s work influenced people still to this day. But I know that you've said that you wish that more people learned from his later work as well. Like, what lessons do you wish that filmmakers working today would take from Godard as opposed to what they took from the 60s? What do you wish they took from his later period?
I mean, I do think a lot of that was covered there, but also a willingness to deny people what they are used to or would expect, and a willingness to put yourself professionally at risk. There's this kind of sense of once you've quote unquote made it, you have to keep going with what you're doing, otherwise you'll be left behind. And Godard never really gave a shit about that. He was very willing to do things that would constitute for most people professional suicide, just for the sake of commitment to what he believes is the right thing to do. I won't name names, but this came up recently for me because of a filmmaker who recently released something and was getting flack for showing it at a festival that endorsed bad things going on in the world. And when people called them out on this, they said, I have to do it for my, career security. It's like, otherwise, this is my job. And I was like, well, Godard did that all the time. And he said, I don't really give a fuck. And, he was like, you can like hate me all you want. I don't really give a shit, as long as I'm being honest with what I think is the right thing to do. That kind of overrides these professional monetary concerns. And he's talked about that. He's talked in interviews about how there was periods of his life where he was struggling with money, despite being acclaimed as like one of the greatest directors who ever lived. He was actually struggling financially, and no one would give him money for films, and it was hard to work. That's why he moved to television, was because it was cheaper. That's why he moved to essay films and movies that use footage taken from different sources compiled together, was because that's how he could make a movie with what he had money-wise, and he made it work. And so I don't know, he's just extremely principled on that front. And I think that's kind of like a professional artistic courage that's kind of lacking among a lot of filmmakers. They just want to do whatever they have to do to survive in the industry so that they can be considered, professionals. And so it doesn't have to be like that. You don't have to, make those moral and ethical concessions to like an industry that is objectively vampiric and evil. Right. The Hollywood is evil, and it's like you don't have to go. Like he references Fritz Lang, who, in order to survive, of course, went to escape Germany, escaped the Nazis, and went to Hollywood. Well, there's been claims he lied about that, but he went to Hollywood to survive, and it's like a lot of people have done that. And he never really gave into that. Even when he incorporated professionals like Molly Ringwald and Woody Allen, Woody Allen, he obviously 100% ridiculed him.
Good.
Yeah, he made a mockery of Woody Allen, and he took on Spielberg. He took on, the Golden Boy. He hated anyone he hated. He was honest about it, because he found them utterly inauthentic as artists, which I respect. Even if I like a director he hated, it's like I respect that he was honest about the fact that because they completely diametrically oppose what he thinks is right, he's gonna point that out, even if like that causes professional problems. I would say him and like Straub and Huye and are like some of the most principled artists in that regard in film, for like sticking to their guns on those things. And he did it. He's like died in his 90s.
Do you have anything else to say about him that maybe I didn't touch on, or that we didn't get to?
I mean, I can't really think of anything. He's got a new movie coming.
Right.
I forget what it's called. I think Scenarios. Phony Wars is great. Phony Wars is really exceptional. And again, have you seen it?
No.
It once again kind of enters new territory for him. It was literally, it's made up of still images. There's no movie. You don't get a moving image in it until I think like 16 minutes in. And up until that point, it's literally a slideshow. And I think based on pictures I've seen, there are slideshows of things he made by hand, like collages he literally made by hand. Like he pasted pictures in a notebook, drew on them, painted it, and stuff like that, and then took a picture. And that's the image you're seeing for like 30 seconds at a time. And it's just like a slideshow of these images he made. And then like 60 minutes in, you finally get a moving image, and then it continues with the slideshow process. And that's the whole movie. And I think I have reason to believe that that is also what his quote unquote final movie is also like. So even now he was kind of entering new territory, doing new things, kind of innovating.
Always growing.
Yeah, he reminds me of Neil Young, you know, just unwilling to do what anyone expects, just kind of very rock and roll.
Want to thank everyone who showed up to the stream, but I also want to thank people who are watching it on the playback. Godard is a filmmaker I love. Unfortunately, he never made a film that's as good as Day for Night, and we can all agree that.
He was never as good as Walt Whitman. No, not Walt Whitman. What's the director you like?
Whit Stillman fucking rules.
Sorry, I'm tired. I said Walt Whitman.
I've been thinking about the Doomed Bourgeois in Love trilogy a lot. I love it. I've been thinking about Metropolitan like every fucking day. Now that's a film. Okay, bye.
Bye.